some restrictions at the prison. I mean, tell me about them. What are you hoping to achieve with this?
Yeah, this is something that's been discussed for some period of time, and it's something that we would like to put in place with a view to having those facilities available should we need to, and it's specifically related to drones and mobile phone blocking. Drones at the minute aren't something that we've had a problem with, but there have been reported incidents in other prisons, certainly in other jurisdictions, where they've had problems with people either trying to drop illicit substances in or access and communicate with prisoners outside of the normal channels that would be acceptable. And that's something that we want to provide a way of preventing against, really. So this order would allow us to put blockers in to stop drones coming. That's something that we've also been working with the Civil Aviation Authority with regard to no-fly zones. So there's a couple of methods in which we can achieve the ultimate goal, but this is something that we would like to have there available to us should we think that the threat of that happening is real. At the minute, as I say, we haven't had incidents. It's very much a precautionary measure. And then the mobile phone blocking is rather more real, I suppose, in terms of the risk of getting mobile phones into prisons. And again, one of those things where the more high-tech our censoring equipment becomes in the prison, the more imaginative ways people find of creating miniature mobile phones out of plastic that can be smuggled in. And that's something that we're very much aware to, we're very much alive to in the prison. There's extensive searches, extensive methods in which we look into that and try to identify where they are in terms of preventing them actually coming in the first place, and then being able to identify them, find them and remove them if they have succeeded in being smuggled in. But we just want to take that a step further and prevent the ability for those mobile phones, if they have managed to get past all those measures, from being able to be used to communicate and carry out potentially illegal activity.
Now, illicit mobile phone use in prisons isn't uncommon. You see stories in the UK newspapers about it happening all the time. I mean, a block on mobile phones, are there any additional problems that could cause within the prison itself for staff that work there, for instance?
No, the companies that we've talked to with regard to potentially bringing in these products certainly are ones where they have worked around any problems. This is not something totally unique, as you say. You do see stories of this, and I think in terms of prisons, we're probably pretty fortunate actually in terms of the low level of activity around this sort of nature within the prison. However, we are aware that it's a problem, and we certainly don't want to just think, well, because it's not happening very often, we're just going to ignore it. I'm very much keen to put things in place, and this being one of them, where we can actually prevent the signals from those phones being used. So we would still be able to use all the security software, and that wouldn't be affected by this.
Is the clampdown about stopping people from using something which is seen as a privilege, or is it to do with something more sinister?
Can be a mixture of both. I mean, obviously, prisoners have access to phones within the prison, but very much controlled, and they are not mobile phones, ones that they can just keep in their cell when they want. And that's something that we want to control. And there's probably a variety of uses. Sometimes because of the way that these phones now are created, as I say, some of them are tiny. They're actually available freely on the internet now, where people have created them very specifically to beat the systems that are in place in prisons. And we are aware from other jurisdictions where they've had cases where they've been used to carry on drug use and drug dealing, other illicit activities, and we certainly don't want to be able to have facilitated that by not putting appropriate measures in place.
If we go back to drones, you say it's not identified on the Isle of Man as a problem. Putting in no-fly zones in place is one thing. We see that during the TT at various places and the Festival of Motorcycling. But actually blocking them is something very different.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we would like to do is, working with the CAA, the no-fly zone would be our first line. But this would give us a backup should we find that despite the no-fly zone there's been breaches of that. We would have the Viries then to be able to actually block the signal. So my understanding of it is the drones just fall out of the air as they get sort of within 10 metres of the prison. And actually this is something that Guernsey have already put in place. the same order but with the Guernsey name to it by bringing an order in council from the UK legislation.